Welcome to this week's Smoking Hot Books. And we're going to be a little different than usual. Usually I write a long ass email you know, but today I am trying something new. And it was inspired by my sales coach, Macy, who encouraged us to write out what's called a make me care message. And a make me care message is, by the way, what sales is all about. Write that down. Sales is about taking something that people did not care about before to making them care. And when they start to care about something, they are now seeing the worldview as your own. And when their brain starts to match your brain, the answer and the offer become obvious. So I'm here to practice today a make me care message about beliefs and why beliefs are so important to you and why they're actually running basically everything about you and your life and your business. And you're gonna get me today. It's gonna be imperfect me. You're gonna see the background of my office. All right, this is what my office looks like. It's kind of insane because we live in the townhouse currently. We're about to move, and you see behind this whiteboard, you see all of our outdoor gear, our camping gear that shares space with all of our books and my whiteboard and all the stuff that's going on. And yeah, you get to see what real me is all about. And um, so without further ado, let's talk about beliefs and why should you even care about them. So I'm going to tell you some stories, okay? So um a few years ago, this was before 2020. So this was like 2018. I was just graduating college and I was applying for grad school at the time because at the time I had been in engineering school and I thought, what's the next step towards, what other feathers can I put in my cap? Oh, okay, I'll go to grad school and maybe my career will follow, doing more science and doing more research in engineering. And little did I know that applying for grad school was a hugely stressful process. And I ended up gaining 10 pounds of weight from not eating correctly, from barely ever working out, from stressing about the outcome. And I would spend mostly all of my time stressing out about applying to grad school rather than working out or, cooking great, good food that was nutritious for my body. And the result was gaining 10 pounds. And I hadn't, this was like a foreign concept for me because 3-ish years before, I was in the best shape of my life. All right. You could ask my friend Hannah. She even sent me this Snapchat that she sent her friend. She was saying, Renee has the biggest back muscle I'd ever seen. Her back is ripped. And at the time, I was like, of course it's ripped because I was going to the gym twice a day. I was rowing. I was on the crew team at Georgia Tech. And yeah, I was in the best shape of my life, cardiovascularly, muscularly, like best shape of my life. And it's not like I didn't know what to do. And in the past, when I was on the crew team, staying fit, looking hot, looking good was enough motivation. It was enough motivation um to lose weight, right? And stay in the best shape and stay in good shape. But when was applying to grad school, and this was 3 years later, and I was applying for grad school and I was super stressed all the time and worried about the outcome. And no matter what I did, even when I was that was what my motivation was. I was like, shoot, I don't look and feel hot anymore. I don't look and feel good anymore. And using that belief system and that operating system, I tried losing the weight, but it really wasn't enough because there was all these new inputs that were happening. I also had a job at the time. I was paying rent that time. I had a boyfriend. I had all these new things to manage. And this belief system, this operating system of, I just want to lose weight because I want to look hot, right? I want to attract a boyfriend. It wasn't working. It was not enough. It did not help me. It did not motivate me enough. It wasn't enough to get me out of bed. It wasn't enough to counter all the other stressors going on in my life. And that led to really struggling to lose the weight until I upgraded my belief system. And this is a direct borrow from Macy, but I remember the exact time when I upgraded my belief system as well, which was when I started associating my body with my mind. And I knew that if, Macy talks about, I started imagining, and I remember doing this too, where I started imagining my body like a racehorse, like a stallion, like gleaming muscles, steam coming out of the nostrils, like Spirit in Spirit Stallion and the Cimarron, that movie, pulling that steam engine up the hill. And the animators animated the muscles and the steam coming out of these horses. You could see their muzzle just like pushing and gleaming, and the body and the mind working in tandem to create this beautiful outcome. And when I started remembering that, okay, because I was applying for grad school at the time, I remembered that my body and my mind are very much connected. And my mind was the thing that was going to get me into grad school. It was the thing that was writing the essays, was the one appearing at the interviews, was the one that was making the connections and doing the things that was going to ultimately get me into grad school and help me achieve the outcome, right? And so when I finally associated the two and realized how important the health of my body was for the health of my mind and therefore the health of my outcomes, I finally lost the weight. 10 pounds, finally lost. I have an article about this on my other Substack about it. It's really cool. Cool. This was like my first like big weight loss journey. And then second of all, I got into some of the top grad schools, biomedical engineering schools in the country. Okay. I was like getting into like Carnegie Mellon's biomedical engineering program. And it had like a 6-year scholarship attached to it. That is the power of your beliefs, the power of your operating system, where it's this, you can have the same actions, you can be the same person, same actions, but with completely different fuel, completely different operating system, completely different beliefs, and get completely different results. All right. And that's the thing that if you're a business owner and you've been in the self-development world for a while now, this may not be news to you, but it might be a good reminder. You're like, oh yeah, like my beliefs, every time I upgraded my beliefs, my life upleveled. Every time I upgraded my beliefs, I was able to, lose the weight. Every time I upgraded my beliefs, I made more money. Every time I upgraded my beliefs, I got happier. Every time I upgraded my beliefs and got happier, that's when I made more money and was able to keep the weight off and have a happier marriage and better sex in my life or in my marriage, right? Everything starts to cascade from there, and the genesis of your life and the quality of your life comes from your beliefs, right? And I want to tell you another story about how when I first started my first ever business, and it's very similar to this business, but the first business I ever started was a course. I bought a course on learning how to publish audiobooks online. And I bought that course, started publishing audiobooks online, and that's how I got I started my first stint in business. And a lot of people kind of have similar, starts, they start with like a biz op, like someone from Mary Kay approaches you and says, "Hey, do you want to like make more money while staying at home?" And someone's like, "Yeah, of course." And you end up selling Mary Kay. This was very similar to that. And I learned how to do online business through this course that taught me how to sell audiobooks. It taught me how to create them and publish them on Amazon, how to have a narrator narrate them to turn it into an audiobook. And then once you have the book, you can sell the book on Audible and make passive income. And I was like, yeah, baby, I am absolutely going to take this biz op and I'm going to, like everything else in my life, I've been successful. I'm going to be successful at this as well. And I'm going to make $10,000 a month in like 6 months, because that was what I thought was going to happen from the results of the other people in this course. And I was like, yeah, perfect. And retire to Bali and I don't know, live the rest of my life never ever working again, I guess, and so part of this course was, you just make the audio, you find some good ideas, maybe find some things that you've been done in the past that you've mastered in the past. Find some stories in your life, write the book, and get a cover made and get a title created, and then upload it to Audible and Amazon, and it'll just take off. And that's what I did. And so I did it. I published one book, and that made me maybe like $250 a month, maybe at the peak, but it would fluctuate, right? It would be like make like $250, then it would make like $20, then it would make like $100, and then it would make like maybe another like $200, right? It'd go up and down, of course. And then I published another book and another book. And I was like, okay, if I can just add on these books, then that means my income will increase. And if I can just increase the quality of these books, then I can, maybe they'll sell more. And every single time I was just like, if I could just pump out more and more, then that means it'll stack on top of each other and it'll eventually add up to 10K a month and I can finally quit my job. And that was kind of a peer, kind of through the looking glass of what my beliefs were. At the time, I believed that volume equals income. If I could, work ethic equals income. Grinding equals income. Work harder, bigger results, right? And I can see if you have, maybe you have a similar belief system, I could totally see why you would think that. But here's the thing is that even after about a year, I think I had spent like $5,000 to have 4 books written, written by a ghostwriter. I had the covers done. I had all these book descriptions made, and I had hired narrators to narrate the audiobooks, and sum total it add up to like $5,000. I was spending money. I was like, wow, I mean, $5,000. And even after, I grinded to get reviews on these books. Some of these book covers weren't very good, so I paid a designer to redesign them. That cost money as well. And even after that, it was still like after everything, I was like, like $5,000 a year. 3 audiobooks published, one never even made it out of my computer. It was still on my computer. That feeling of like you run the race and you're like, where am I? And I was still making only about like $300 a month. And I was exhausted compared to the amount of effort that I was putting in. And by the way, I was still working my 9 to 5. And I was still working my 9 to 5, building, doing the side hustle. And the result felt so measly. And I would stare at my bank account, and my corporate salary at the time was around like $80,000 a year. And comparing that to like the $300 a month that I was making, I felt literally sick. I was like, this is absolutely never going to work at this rate. At this rate, I'm going to be old and decrepit. And I mean, and then I'll retire to Bali, but then what, right? Like, I didn't come to live my life to grind. But that's, maybe that's what everyone tells you to do, just keep grinding. Add another strategy. Add another, maybe you'll have a big enough audience. So just keep posting more and you'll have a bigger audience. That should work, right? Maybe it's another strategy. Maybe you didn't run your ads right. Maybe you should be on more podcasts. That's the danger of seeking out a new strategy without upgrading your operating system. Because when you just add more strategies on top of your old operating system, all you're doing is just adding more complexity to an old operating system. It's kind of like the analogy is like trying to run Claude or ChatGPT on like an old computer, like a 1980s like green screen IBM desktop computer that's like big, like running ChatGPT on a computer like that, error. Like, it ain't gonna work. The result is absolutely not what you're looking for, right? So what I did instead was that I actually bought a new course. And this new course completely upgraded my entire operating system. And at the time, I felt like I was moving backwards because none of my books were working. And according to this new operating system, it would have been like, nah, like trash all of those. Like you would have to start all over because the content wasn't right, the titles were bad, the covers they're bad, and they were saying, no, you need to completely upgrade your operating system. But because I took a step back and upgraded my operating system, when I published the next book, in month 1 of launching that book, I made $9,270.20. And in month 2, I made $9,352.01 in month 2. So I went from making $300 a month to making like 9,000, almost $10,000 in a month. How how would you do that? And it happened in about a year. It was absolutely like mind-blowing, okay? And it changed my life forever. It changed my brain forever. It made me realize that money does not follow effort. Money does not follow effort at all. In fact, money is more mapped to the operating system in your mind, your beliefs, your beliefs. It was the same person, same work ethic. I was still working hard. It's not like I was working hard, like I wasn't like in pain, but I was grinding. I was like taking consistent action every day. So it was the same work ethic, the same business type. I was still publishing books, using audiobooks even on Amazon, but it was a different belief, a different operating system, a different worldview. Those beliefs, those difference of beliefs led to massively different results, right? And here's another story for you about beliefs, all right? So, e- even when I was working on this business, I was really looking forward to making $10,000 a month because at the time I was thinking, well, I need money to quit my job so that I can go travel around the world and have freedom, right? And that's the thing that's sold to us all the time, right? On the internet, like, look at this awesome business model, just sell Mary Kay and you will have freedom. You'll have freedom, you can work whenever you want, you can work however many hours you want, you can work or whatever you want while you work, sell Mary Kay, right? It's a story that's sold to you, and I mean, without knowing any better, you believe it, right? That freedom is on the other side of a number. That freedom is on the other side of this business opportunity, right? And so when I used to think that, oh, okay, so I there's no way I can really travel and have freedom until I hit $10,000 a month in my business and I can finally quit my job. Okay. So what did I do? I stayed at my corporate job and I just kept grinding away at my business, right? Because I believe that freedom and travel were on the other side of money, right? Until I had a perception change. Until my beliefs did a complete when the kaleidoscope shifted. When I realized that I had a car, I was working a remote job, I could couch surf, which if you don't know what couch surfing is, by the way, it's basically like hospitality exchange where you can stay at another person's house for not spending it. You don't have to spend any money. So I could travel and stay at someone's house. I had accommodation without money. And then 4, I was like, well, if I have a car, I have a remote job, and I can stay at someone's house without spending money. I was like, well, what am I doing? I could, I'll just travel to town that's like 3 hours away. It would be a new town. I would be traveling. It would be adventuresome. I would be meeting new people, eating new foods, looking at different places. And this was in February, and it was like 70 degrees at this coastal town. I was like, like, this is exactly what I was wanting, Bali be damned. This is it. Like, I could experience the feelings of what I thought Bali could give me right now. So I realized that freedom on the other side of a number. Freedom is really comes from operating from a different kaleidoscope, operating from a different belief system, operating from a different worldview, an upgraded worldview. So when that shifted, my world opened up and I realized I had freedom this entire time. It's not on the other side of a number. Okay. So here's the thing with business. How does this apply to you? How does this apply to business and money? Right. It's because business and money does not follow effort, right? It follows an upgraded operating system, an upgraded belief. And I've seen this time and time again with my own clients. Okay. One of my most successful clients, she had 45,000 TikTok followers. She now has like 23,000 Substack subscribers. More than that, she has 32,000 now. And she had, so and all intents and purposes, that's a huge audience. Huge audience. She'd been consistent for years, right? She had every strategy advantage that the internet talks about, have a big audience and, things that we envy about other people. Huge audience, popular. She was very consistent. The work ethic was there, right? But what she did when she published her book to TikTok was that no one bought her book on TikTok. She sold 2 copies a year for like 2 years, or 2 copies a day for 2 years. Maybe for some of you, that would be like amazing. But for someone with like 45,000 TikTok followers, you might expect bigger results. And she had expected bigger results for herself as well. I've had clients who have published 4, 5 books. And they're, in the back of their head, they're thinking, oh my gosh, I need a nest egg for retirement. Retirement's coming up. Every time they launch a book or they release a book on Amazon and it doesn't do well. And they feel like they're throwing spaghetti at the wall every time. Okay. But until they upgraded their operating system. So that first client who had the TikTok following, when we worked together, her book finally found success. She sold 1,300 copies within like one month, including pre-orders. Her email list grew by almost 25% in 3 months. And she was starting to get customers within 1 week of her book launching. Okay. That's the power of upgrading your beliefs. Other clients feeling like they're throwing spaghetti at the wall, they start upgrading their operating system. And now she was saying, I see it everywhere. I had this neighbor who says to me that she buys books all the time just because of the cover. And this client hadn't quite made that association yet. She was like, oh, I just need to like make more videos on YouTube. I just need to, I remember she was saying that she was always just trying like different strategies. Do you feel like you're kind of like stuck in like strategy hell? Do you feel like you're just constantly looking for what's the strategy? What's the thing that has been proven? You're looking for this validation out there that something over there worked for them and therefore it can work for me too. But when you get burned by that strategy, when it doesn't work, I've been there myself. Remember the audiobooks thing? They sold me this audiobooks course with an awesome webinar, with awesome results, with awesome strategy. And it didn't work for me either. Right? So if you feel like you've been burned before by publishers saying that, I'll do XXX for you, but they didn't. You're looking for, the next marketing course to help you with meta ads or another podcast strategy or whatever else. You feel like you're in strategy hell. Because if you are in that scenario, you're trying to run ChatGPT on an old 1980s IBM computer. And we need you to get from that computer. We want you to become a slick Apple Mac desktop. 2026 model, baby, right? We got to get you upgraded. Upgraded. You're running like a smooth, well-oiled machine. And maybe well-oiled isn't quite the term, but you know what I mean, right? And you might have learned this about business and money, right? That money doesn't follow effort. Money follows skill. Money follows an upgraded operating system. When you upgrade your operating system, author success, book sales, consulting sales, course sales, opportunities, they can feel like the doors are opening for you. And they can feel as effortless as tying your shoes. I remember us sitting in my bed at 10 p.m. on a Tuesday night, and I got a message from a podcast host, top 1% podcast host, and saying, "I want you on my show because I saw your book on Amazon." I didn't have to pitch. I didn't have to go on podcast tour necessarily. My clients, when they launched their book, and she had 200 Instagram followers at the time. I'm thinking about one of them. 200 Instagram followers is usually what people would say, "I don't give you any light of the day." But when she upgraded her operating system, podcast hosts wanted her on her show. She was consistently booking top 1%, top 2% podcasts because she now had an upgraded operating system about what was available to her. Not as a result of having more followers or publishing more books or picking the right strategy or picking the right publisher. No, it was about upgrading her operating system. And the beautiful thing about upgrading your operating system is that it compresses time, right? If we remember this example of when I was thinking, oh, if I can just publish more books, then I can eventually make 10K a month, or I can upgrade my operating system and within 1 year I can $300 a month compared to $10,000 a month. I don't know, like 300x my income. An upgraded operating system compresses time. It leverages you. And the right words and the images in your marketing, which is really what marketing is really all about, right? It's the right message at the right time, delivered to the right person. That is what does the heavy lifting for you. Not effort, not work ethic, not strategy, your operating system. Without grinding yourself to the bone, without becoming someone you're not without choosing some random YouTube video strategy that someone said, this worked for me, and you're trying to like make all these videos, but you don't feel like yourself when you're doing it, without sacrificing your integrity for visibility, without needing to follow another guru, without needing ads or social media or another podcasting strategy, no. Without needing to listen to another guru and pray they don't scam you. That is what is possible for you. So, over the next I'm about to create 4 more messages, and they're going to be a series of emails and videos like this. I'm going to walk you through upgrading your operating system, literally right here, right now, for free, completely free. Okay, this is what my paid clients do. They pay me to upgrade their operating system. You're about to get it for free. I'm going to walk you through the 4 beliefs that are most likely standing between you and author success that you're dreaming about, which is not another strategy. It's not another tactic. Beliefs. Because until those change, nothing will. Okay? So excited for you. We'll talk soon. Have a happy Tuesday.